Hey there, everybody. I had an intro, but the Hogsty won't let me give it because of my former alcohol problem. Shucks. The best I can do is tell you that Chris Cooly made some incendiary, speculative remarks about Redskins general manager Scott McLuhan that we'll get into. And no, before you ask, we have not signed Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal yet. Additionally, we got the usual menagerie of Lions, Tigers, Bears, user polls, and other odds and ends. That's right, you're here on the Hogsty. Don't go away.
Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Adam Terrest, Alex Zeese, Sean Conti, and Steve Thomas. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Cut it there. And 3, 2, 1. And we're back. Sean Conti, yours truly here, leading us off on this show. Glad to be with you. And my crew is here, Mr. Steve Thomas. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. You know, it's like we're in chaos at Redskins Park. You know, it's like as Redskins Park turns, perhaps, you know, a soap opera again. I thought we got away from this stuff, but it turns out we're right back in it. But no, I'm doing fine. You know, it's a beautiful day down here in Texas. It's high in the 80s. You know, we had a lot of rain, but we're through that now. So all is well. I am not drinking.
All is well.
I do not have an alcohol problem. I'm sorry you do, Sean. And frankly, if you don't cure the problem, we're just going to fire you.
Well, I know. I was going to say, you've already limited my media access, so this is a bummer, guys.
Yeah.
Alex, how you doing, man? How you been?
I'm going to toast your alcohol problem right now.
Cheers,
I
bro.
think it's great. I was down in Texas last week. I was there for all that rain you guys got. Yeah, I had to fly out through it. It was really fun. But yeah, great to be back on the show. I kind of missed doing this while I was just, sipping margaritas, sitting in the 82-degree weather.
Oh, God, that sounds like a dream. Man, it's not quite as nice here in Colorado as it sounds like you guys have had, but...
It's 70 today in D.C., which is really nice.
Oh, that's hella nice, man. I'd take 70. Shit, I'd take 70 any day. So I'm sure, Alex, when you were on vacation, you expected to come back to seeing Kirk Cousins signed to a nice big fat contract, didn't you?
I expected so much. I expected the contract. I expected, to hear how our coaching staff was all coming together great and happy, and the front office was, working on a perfect plan to do the draft. That's what I was hoping for.
Didn't really work out.
You thought
way.
wrong.
What happened?
Didn't really work out.
No.
Yeah, no. This saga...
Nothing works out for Redskins fans, does it?
No, it really doesn't. This saga continues, looking like we're headed to another potential franchise tag situation. Any updates? What are you guys hearing as the latest that's coming out of the park? As I understand it, I've heard some reports that Kirk Cousins doesn't want to be here.
Yeah,
this is all just speculation, but saying he wants the tag.
It's coming from Chris Russell and Jason Reed. And so you got to take some of that with a grain of salt, because Chris Russell's put all sorts of crazy things out there over the years, as we all know. Jason Reed's kind of the same.
Yes.
But the rumor that came out this week about this was that Kirk Cousins doesn't really want to be in Ashburn long term. So the reason why he's been so receptive to taking the franchise tag is that gets him out 1 year sooner, or a couple years sooner. He can just play on his tag and take off and be done. I think the backstory, not the backstory, but sort of if you play it out a little bit, I think what they're insinuating is that Cousins feels like he's been jerked around all these years, starting with the Robert Griffin stuff, and he got benched for Colt McCoy and back and forth, and last year then they wouldn't give him, long-term contract that he wanted. They kind of lowballed him, at least in the realm of quarterbacks. And so I think what Reed and Russell are saying is that all of that stuff, Cousins just kind of had it with all of that, and that's what they're saying. I don't know. Who knows what's true or not true? I mean, we've never talked to Cousins, and he's not going to say even if we do talk to him, But that's the story.
No. I mean, he's been on the air a number of times, and, he's the kind of guy who's smart enough to always say the right thing when he's
pretty
in the
classy.
media.
He's not going to go bash, the team to the media. That's just not his style,
I think last time I heard him on the air was just before the Super Bowl, and he said that, he was basically like, I want to be here long term. We just need to work it out. But
I mean, like you said, he's going to say the right things, but what do you guys think? Is there any truth to the fact that to the idea, the notion that Kirk Cousins has been abused or mistreated by this team? Is that a fair?
I think there's some truth to it. Some of it, I think, is absurd to say. Oh, he was benched for Colt McCoy in 2014. He was terrible.
He was terrible. Exactly.
Like, he deserved to be benched at that point. I think he had thrown like 3 interceptions in one game and looked bad in the other. And
also,
you did not.
I think
job.
if he's angry about it, this is only angry in the realm of diva quarterback stuff. Okay, because number one, he made $20 million this year. That's not chump change, even for in the world of football players, even and high-priced athletes. That's not chump change. And so the idea that he was disrespected by being handed the exclusive franchise tag and being paid $20 million for 1 year, in which, by the way, his performance regressed, by some measures from the year before, in terms of how he performed on the field. I don't feel too bad for him. I'm not saying he's terrible, but he wasn't, as we predicted in the offseason, he didn't exactly put up Hall of Fame stats, kind of like he did in 2015, and we lost a couple critical games. He threw that killer interception.
Sure.
I don't want to get into all that. My point is that if he's got his shorts in a wad, this is like quarterback diva stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I agree, especially for the point that Alex made, that if you felt like you should have had the entrenched starter position before this, I'm not quite sure why. It's not like you came out of the gate swinging and playing, top tier football. It took some time to earn it, man. That's how it works in this league. I certainly don't agree with that notion.
Yeah.
Now, him saying, I want the tag. Read between the lines there. Tell me what he's saying. Because what I'm hearing is I want another nice, big, fat, guaranteed chunk of change, and then I want to go elsewhere.
Well, that's, I think, the reason why Russell and Reed are saying that. Because the only reason that's the only reason why he wouldn't want a long-term deal, because he's going to get more guaranteed money up front at signing out of a long-term deal than he would playing on the franchise tag. He's going to get, like, say, $40 million guaranteed at signing one way or another out of a long-term deal, and then have another about 15 to 20 million at least guaranteed the next couple years after that. So the only reason why he would want to play on the franchise tag would be to leave. Now, I think if you take the optimistic view of it, what he was saying, you could say that his point was, look, if they franchise tag me, it means they want me in, and so I'm happy to play. You could take that tack to it too. I mean, who knows what the truth is, and we'll never know.
Mm-hmm. I always kind of interpreted it a little differently, where he wants the tag because his agent has told him wisely that sets a bottom line for what the Redskins have to pay you this year. If you tag him at 24, you're going to have to pay him that. That kind of money is kind of on the table in his pocket no matter what, regardless of what the deal works out to be. Like, it's not like he's going to get tagged and then suddenly get like $9 million.
But I don't necessarily think the Redskins have to use that as a baseline going up. He's I don't think they need to sign him for a $24 million cap hit every year. If they do a long-term deal.
No, I was more thinking it sets a bottom line for guaranteed money.
Oh, it's going to be more than that.
When he signs a long-term deal.
A lot more than $24 million guaranteed. For sure.
I'm saying, remember how last year they lowballed him? That was what we heard.
The rumor was they offered him about 16,
that's what we heard.
18 million. That was the rumor.
Right. So I'm thinking it's more along those lines. The agent just wants the team to show that they're going to not lowball him again.
Well,
and this is me just taking a very optimistic approach.
I don't know if I hear you. I don't know if I agree. Because they can just franchise him. I don't think the fact that they franchise him means they're not going to lowball him. They could lowball him again. They could say, we're going to franchise you for a year. You're going to be 30 next year. Your career's on the downslope at that point. You sign our long-term deal, at say $20 million a year. Otherwise, we're just going to tie you up for another year and, mess your career up more. I think that could be the approach. If they want to be jerks about it, and we're not starting a rumor here, we haven't heard that. I'm just saying that's one approach they could take.
We're basically speculating on strategies that the team or Kirk.
I do think I'll say this much, and this is just me guessing. Again, we don't have any inside knowledge on anything, at all. But It seems like there probably is some disagreement at Redskins Park. I mean, the beat writers have always said that, there's disagreements to a certain extent about Kirk Cousins among the top level management at Redskins Park, and it seems like that's probably the case because the team just doesn't seem like they're, Jay Gruden certainly is, he definitely wants him, but it doesn't seem like the franchise as a whole has really gotten behind the we're going to sign Kirk Cousins no matter what train, because we don't really hear that, We hear they want him, but...
That's right, and I would love to know who's on what side of that debate, just to be a fly on the wall in those conversations. God, that would be interesting. So,
you have to kind of be inclined towards Bruce being on team signing him. I don't think he would have said as much in the public as he did.
Maybe not, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
So we have heard a ton of different stories about this. We can move on to our
wait,
next topic.
wait,
we'll
before
have
you...
continuous
No,
Cousins
I've got
updates.
another thing we need to cover with this.
Me too.
Oh, I thought you were
Me
moving
too.
on from Cousins. My apologies. I'll shut up.
I was just going to try to shoehorn my last word in there so I could get the last one.
Oh.
You know how I do, Steve.
Well, I do have another point at the Cousins thing before you do the last word thing, because some of the chatter amongst the fans this week was whether the San Francisco 49ers want Cousins, and the way they would get him is if we apply a non-exclusive franchise tag and then trade him. The CBA says, he's worth, if you trade a non-exclusive franchise tag player, it's worth two first-round picks. So because there was so much chatter about it, I tweeted out our friend Joel Corey, who's been on the show and is a good guy, and my question to him
What's up, Joel?
My question to him was, what do you think Cousins' value would be in a non-exclusive tag and trade scenario with San Francisco? And he responded, and his response was...
Nice.
He had two responses. First thing he said was, quarterbacks are generally more valuable in defensive ends. Jared Allen, who used to be with the Vikings, went for a first and 2/3 with a swap of 6-round picks in a sign and trade. And so I thought, wow, that's a lot for somebody like Jared Allen. So my question, follow on to that, would be... So it sounds like the number 2 overall pick would be on the table in that scenario, not just as a swap of 2 and 17. And his response to that was what I thought was the most interesting. He said if he were the 49ers, he would strongly recommend to the Niners that they do not give up this year's second overall pick under any circumstances, and that they make it the 2018 first-round pick. In other words, read between the lines with that, and this is just Twitter, so it's kind of hard to get too into it with him. But you read between the lines on that, it's Kirk Cousins is not worth the second overall pick. That's what he was saying.
Sure.
Although you have to keep in mind that San Francisco is a team that I understand where he's coming from. Kirk Cousins might be worth a second overall pick, maybe not to San Francisco that has holes all over their entire team and is dealing with a whole new administration and has so many constant issues. I don't know if it makes sense for them to trade the number 2 overall pick, considering they could have their pick of the litter for basically any position of need that they have. Interesting thing. I mean, all we can do is speculate. I thought it's an interesting comment that he made either way, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Just very. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I wish we could do more. Just, we all wish we were GMs and we could say, oh, what about this trade? What about this trade? I think we all do that entirely too much.
We need to get Joel back on the show, maybe. And if the Redskins if the Redskins tag him, maybe we'll get Joel back on the show and have him talk about the franchise tag. That may be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we should try for it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I was going to just ask you guys before we moved on to the next topic, what do you think is going to happen? Let's do an estimate, a guess here like we do for the games during the season. Okay. The franchise tag window is now open.
Yes.
We've heard reports that Cousins doesn't want to be here. We've heard reports that there's disagreement about his value in the front office. What do you guys think is going to happen at this point right now?
Alex?
I say he'll get the franchise tag. What is it? The first? Is that when the deadline is? Yeah. So he'll get
March
the
1st.
franchise tag the 27th. The 28th, he'll sign a long-term deal. Something like that. It'll be...
I think
that
that
kind of thing.
they are going to tag him. I think they will tag him at the last possible minute that they can, meaning the day before or the day of the closing of the window, which again is March 1st. I do not think a long-term deal will get done anytime soon. If they get it done,
Oof.
I think the middle of July is the deadline for tag players. Okay, if you can negotiate, I'm trying to find the exact date in our preview here.
But it's usually
July. I think
somewhere
it's
in
July
14th or July 17th.
July 15th. Oh, here it is. Free agency period. Okay. But my point is, I think it's going to be middle of July before they get a long-term deal done. But I think they will, at the end of the day, get a long-term deal done. I just think it'll be in July.
Guys, I can't talk about this until July. I really can't do that. I really hope it gets done before that. It's going to be every day. Yeah, I mean, here's what I think. I think they're going to get it done.
Just avoid the message boards.
Yeah, right? I think they're going to get it done. I think he's going to get. I think the relationship is degrading right now, so they need to get it done ASAP. But I think they're going to get it done. I have faith. We're in a great position. Let's not be stupid. Let's do this.
And the deadline is July.
But we
July
obviously
15th
will keep
is the deadline, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a long slog. Obviously, to you listeners at home, we'll keep you updated as things change there. I'm sure they will.
Hey, we'll all
weekly.
be warm by then.
Yeah, you're right.
I know. I'll be scalding
This'll
hot.
be a
You'll
much
be
nicer place to
warm.
live.
I'll be sweltering.
Yeah, you'll be.
The only other thing, the only way that this may change, I think, is
It'll be so
if
beautiful
the San
here.
Francisco stuff has legs, and they are interested in maybe if they see it going downhill and they think they can't get a deal done with Cousins, they want to trade him with San Francisco. That they'll do before the draft. Because if they have a first-round pick coming back, I know that's not what Joel said is going to happen, but if they have a first-round pick coming back, that needs to be done could be worked out before the draft. So that would be one way that one scenario that would get resolved. If he's going to be traded, it's going to be before the draft. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, me too. It does. Well, we will see. Only time will tell. Let's move on from there and talk about our next story. This was a pretty major thing that came down the pipeline this week. So I don't know if you guys heard, but Chris Cooly kind of split the planet Earth in half with some of the comments he made on his show this week. For those of you at home who maybe missed this story or live under a rock or whatever's going on with you, I don't know. Chris Cooly got up there and he prefaced everything he said with a lot of caveats. I don't know. This is all speculation. He said it. But then he proceeded to insinuate that one of the reasons Scott McLuhan may not be appearing in front of the media is that he's been told not to because he is drinking again. Recall back when Scott McLuhan was first hired by this franchise, he had been let go by two teams under somewhat strange circumstances, and the words that were coming down were that it was about his alcohol abuse problem. So Cooly is speculating that this is what is causing Scott McLuhan to kind of be held back from reporters now. So Steinberg wrote an article about this. I mean, what are you guys thinking about this story? I know you've heard about it.
I mean, I don't know what to think about the story, but my God, what a storm that created. It was all that local reporters seemed to want to talk about for the rest of the week. Steinberg, PFT, a few people kind of just relayed what Cooly said. The ESPN 980 took the audio down from their website of that segment of the show like 2 days later or a day later.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah. It's it's like
because it created such a shitstorm.
This did not happen. This did not go out on our waivers. Look,
Steve, put your legal hat on. Is that going to stop
no,
anybody
of course
from
not.
maybe filing a
Of
lawsuit?
Number one, it's still out there. Okay, just because it's not on their website, somebody has it. And what you're talking about is defamation. Defamation of a public figure. Scott McLuhan is a public figure is a lot higher bar to meet. But no, the fact that they deleted it is not going to mean a thing. But look, here's the thing.
And that would be slander, not liable.
Yeah, it's libel is in writing, slander is slander. But then you've got the comments in writing, you've got the post maybe potential liable, for publishing, and PFT also published it. But look, here's the point. From my perspective, I don't know whether Scott McLuhan's drinking or not. Who knows? We don't know anything.
Right. Yeah.
I think Chris Cooly ought to be ashamed of himself. I think it's an awful thing, and he's a terrible broadcaster for having the I don't know what's the word for speculating about a guy having an alcohol
unmitigated
gall. How does he have the unmitigated gall to speculate about a guy having an alcohol problem with absolutely no evidence whatsoever? And the reason we say that is he said on the air, I have no evidence of this. And so I take him at his word. You just don't speculate about something like
right.
that. I think it was awful, and he should be ashamed of himself. I almost think he ought to be fired, honestly. He works for Red Zebra. Remember?
Yeah.
Red Zebra is Dan Snyder.
Yeah.
That's Snyder, yeah. That's Snyder's media branch, for those of you who don't know. So, this is kind of where I was going with it, Steve. I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of what I wanted to ask you guys. I agree. I think 99.9% of circumstances, you get up there and you say, maybe this guy has an alcoholism problem. That's a pretty fucked up thing to do. Why would you say that if you didn't know? Now, the only question that I would ask you guys is, recall that this has been a problem with McLuhan in 2 other teams. So this is where I think, Cooley shouldn't have said what he said. I kind of agree with that. But at the same time, as I think about it, as a journalist and knowing that this is an issue that's come up with McLuhan multiple times in the past and has led to his release from teams, is there any part of what Cooley said that is legitimate? Is there any part of speculating in this way that is legitimate? Or like Steve said, is it just completely out of left field and unfair?
Well, let's talk about McLuhan's history for those of you who don't know. And we're not making this up. Scott McLuhan did a 2014 interview with ESPN and talked about this. So this is where I'm about to get this.
That's right. He said it himself.
Right. So he's admitted this is an issue
and now,
that he's had.
His history is, for those of you who don't know, he was the senior personnel executive for the San Francisco 49ers, and the 49ers fired him from that job under the rumor that that he had a drinking problem. He went to Seattle. He was the GM in Seattle, and Seattle let him go under what was rumored to be similar circumstances. And in the article in 2014,
and he went
to rehab
at one point.
In the article,
Right.
what was eye-opening about the article to many in 2014 was that he said he's still drinking. He just has controlled his drinking. And look, he's an adult. I don't know what his deal, but that's what he told ESPN. He said, I still drink. It's a controlled thing now. So what Cooley is implying with his comments is that his drinking is not controlled anymore. That was what Cooley's implying. But if he doesn't have any evidence of it, I'd can him. Honestly, I think Cooley'd be off my airwaves. I mean, you open this up for a defamation lawsuit. You're speculating about personal circumstances of the GM of the Washington Redskins. I'd get rid of him. I wouldn't tolerate it on my air.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he were on a different station, he would have at least been suspended. I'm
They're probably not
Cooley
eager
is one
to.
of my favorite players.
Oh, me too. And they're probably not eager to drop him because I think people know that he's kind of good at this. If you recall the whole Robert Griffin III shenanigans that went on, Cooley was one of the loudest voices in that entire thing. This is what he does, and it gets attention, and I'm sure he gets views or clicks or however.
Well, you just said it.
Well, and that's the nature of
because
radio.
Behind closed doors, ESPN is cheering, or 980 is cheering about it. They may, they may have erased it from their website, but everybody's talking about 980 this week, and a whole bunch of people went back to listen to the Cooley morning show because of this. At least now he's been gone this week. I think he was on a regularly scheduled vacation. For the rest of the week. Yeah, convenient. But I don't know. I just think it was irresponsible. I know he's not a reporter. He would tell you he's not a reporter. He's an analyst, and he's a talk show guy. And Lord knows we've all said dumb things on our show here, But none of us have gone to that level of stupid.
I've been drunk on this show before, live. I've been shit-faced.
But none of us have gone to that
question.
level.
Let's look at this.
Oh, no.
We certainly haven't. And this is what. So can we look at this from another angle? Because here's my other question to you guys. If let's forget the alcoholism thing, because no one knows. That is purely speculation. Let's look at this from the other side. Why isn't McLuhan speaking more? Let's forget the alcoholism thing is even an option. Why isn't he speaking more? And this is the thing, that I would ask you guys: is it unprecedented for the general manager not to be speaking in situations like this? This is a pretty high pressure offseason for everybody. There's an very important draft coming up, and obviously this Kirk Cousins thing is a serious issue that needs to get worked out. So that's my question for you guys: is do you think it's that, or is it something else that we won't speculate, but is it something else?
I do buy into the other speculation that's been going on about this, which is that Bruce and maybe a little bit of Dan have a jealousy factor going on with McLuhan keeps on getting a lot of credit for how the team's being rebuilt, and Bruce Allen is still the president, and he's like, I I'm here too doing this. But again, that's also speculation. I don't think we'll ever really know unless and until one of these big, let's say the top 4 people get fired and they make a public statement about it.
I think sometimes as simple is the right answer. It's entirely, look, this is a big off season for Scott McLuhan. His draft last year didn't produce, like we all hoped, with Doxson and Fuller and, Matt Jones.
That's
Matt
true.
Jones the year before that. I mean, he came in here with a reputation as some sort of like personnel Svengali, and he's had a bunch of busts. I mean, he's improved the team. I'm not one of these guys that thinks he should be fired. I think he's helped the Redskins, but he hasn't exactly been God's gift to personnel. And so I think this is a big year for him, and I think the simple answer may just be that Bruce Allen said, look, you just focus on, don't worry about the media. You just do personnel. I will take all the media stuff. Let me take that off your hands. You just sit and watch film all day. And don't worry about talking to the post. Let me do that. I think that it may be as simple as that.
Make sure you get that number 1 pick right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I think it just may be as simple as that. If Bruce Allen trying to help him out. I do think it's unusual that the GM didn't speak, particularly at the Senior Bowl. I think that's kind of normal. But I think the rest of it is just speculation. I mean, Mike Jones said it was jealousy, and as what Alex was talking about, maybe so, who knows? But I just tend to sometimes think
kind of came up with that theory.
I just think sometimes the simple thing is the answer. So
is the right answer.
Another bit of pure speculation that I've heard is that some of this is the reporters are upset, and that's why they're kind of being more open with the speculation about why this is happening.
About what?
What are they upset
as opposed
about?
To just the fact that McLuhan didn't speak.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, that
they're
seems
gonna
awful
get that
childish.
Yeah, they're going to get that upset about that. I mean, Bruce Allen talked. It's not like they didn't have a press conference to go to. Bruce Allen talked.
And Bruce Allen gave one of the all-time legendary press conferences. What was that? 2 off seasons ago. So you're gonna get more out of Bruce than you'll get out of McLuhan.
I was gonna say you're gonna have a much funnier headline coming out of a Bruce Allen press conference, most likely.
Well, are you talking about
McLuhan? It's gonna be we got some good players. We need more good players and football.
Are you
players.
talking about the Bruce Allen
That's
winning
McLuhan's
off
press
the field?
conference every time.
The Bruce Allen winning off the field.
Yeah, went off
that's
the
what
field.
I'm talking about. 2 years ago.
Holiday potlucks,
Harvest fests.
He's always Harvest Fest. That's what he's always talking about. Something bogus, man. It's hilarious.
By the way, does anyone sell a Harvest Fest T-shirt? I would really love like a fake Redskins throwback Harvest Fest
Maybe
T-shirt.
you guys ought to come
Me
up with one
too,
and put them
man.
on
Let's
our
make
website.
those. That's great. Yeah, undefeated Harvest Fest winners, 10 years in a row. Right.
Maybe we need
like
to do that. Don't encourage anyone else to do it. We'll do it and sell a shirt on our website. How about that?
All right, fine.
Yeah, that's pretty genius. I like that.
I look. I mean,
I don't know.
McLuhan
I don't know what to make of it all.
McLuhan isn't going to say anything anyway. Like you said, all he's going to say is we're going to pick the best players. I want football players. It's not going to mean a damn thing. So
that could be groundbreaking.
Again, maybe that's what Allen is saying. It's like, look, dude, you're not going to say anything important anyway. You're not going to give anything away. I'll do it. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And so last question, because I actually don't know this aspect of the story. Has the Redskins issued any kind of statement, even just to say we're not going to make a comment on this or anything?
Well, Tony Wiley came out and said they inquired of the Redskins PR, and Tony Wiley's answer was, we're in a meeting. That was his response.
Nice.
That could
Nice,
mean
Tony.
like they're deciding on
Nice.
lunch options. It could mean, they want to see what movie they're going to go see after work. I mean, it could mean anything. That could have meant literally anything.
Tony, also great for a quote.
We're in a meeting. I think he said we're in a personnel meeting,
Yeah.
which again could mean literally anything. They may be evaluating secretarial resumes, So
Right.
instead of saying we just
that
have
might
no
be controversial.
comment.
I hear the secretary there is beloved.
Yes, I think she's been there for a billion
Right.
years, the secretary at the Redskins. I just think it's kind of funny that you don't come out and say something like, we are aware of the comments made by Chris Cooly on ESPN 980 and have no further comment. Instead, you say we're in a meeting.
Right.
I just think it's funny. That's all.
Yeah,
it
that's
accomplishes
weird.
the same goal,
That's
but
weird.
it's just kind of funny.
I don't know. It does. It almost doesn't. I feel like that statement, Christ, that leaves the door open for more speculation. That was probably
What meeting
mishandled by them.
Let me ask you guys
anyway.
this, before you move on, though. Let's pretend
Yeah.
you are. Look, remember Dan Snyder's in charge of everything, right? He's in charge of Red Zebra. He's in charge of the Redskins. If you were Daniel Snyder and this story happened, what would you do about it? I mean, in terms of being the president of Red Zebra LLC and the president of the Redskins, what would you do about
the
it?
tricky thing is he's been so hands off with Red Zebra, from what I hear lately.
Yeah.
Although they did just fire like the entire not front office. What do you call it in a radio station? Like the radio managers and stuff like that.
The station manager.
They fired a lot of those people. What was
Again?
that? Yeah, like 6 months ago or
Yeah,
something
it was
like that.
a while. It was more than that, but
They had
yeah.
a lot of turnover. Was it more than
think
that?
so.
Well, anyway. I mean, I think you have to, at some point, sit down McLuhan and Cooley and at least work it out between the two of them, right? I mean...
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
privately, something?
I don't think McLuhan's going to want to meet with Cooley. I mean, that guy's busy. I don't think he's going to want to sit down with Chris Cooly and have Cooley grovel. I think he's going to just say, whatever, let me go watch film, personally.
Well, frankly, if McLuhan's that laid back about it, then fine. I don't care, But the only thing I would be worried about is any of this pissing off Scott McLuhan, because he is the best GM we've had in a long time.
That's a low bar, man. You're comparing him to Vinny Serrato and Mike Shanahan, okay, and Bruce Allen.
Yeah. Well, and kind of Joe Gibbs. Let's be honest. Joe Gibbs was kind of the GM.
He was the team president back
years.
then, yeah. So yeah, Joe Gibbs, and I think we all, as beloved as we love Joe, but I think Joe's specialty is coaching, not GMing.
Yeah,
No. He made some okay picks. I don't think he made some.
He wasn't terrible.
Real head scratchers.
No, he
all the
wasn't
time.
terrible. But I mean,
no.
The Gibbs Bobby Beathard combo is what won Super Bowls. It wasn't the Gibbs and Gibbs combo that won Super Bowls.
Right.
I don't know.
And I think every fan would agree with that.
If I were,
but so anyway,
yeah. Well, Sean's, what'd you think? Did you give your answer?
That's my concern.
No, I haven't yet. Here's what I would probably do. I would, because here's the thing, guys, I would just say is it was a fucked up thing to say. I don't agree with Cooley speculating in that way. It was messed up. He's trying to fill the airtime, He probably didn't even expect, I don't know if he expected this much of a hubbub. I do think part of the hubbub is the stuff that has now covered Cooley. So Cooley's speculating, but it's the coverage of what Cooley said that has blown the story up. So I don't necessarily put Cooley on the chopping block for all of this hubbub that's been caused around this. But here's what I would do if I was Dan Snyder. I would, first of all, I'd put Scott McLuhan. I'd make sure he's sober. I'd breathalyze his ass, and then I'd put him up there in front of the media to give the usual cookie-cutter, non-interesting, non-informative answers. I mean, if that's all it's going to take to get people to shut up, I'd probably just go ahead and do it. If you got nothing to hide from, you got nothing to hide from. So I'd probably just let him talk. He's not going to say anything anyway. Either that, or I would, Dan Snyder's got his own media branch. I'd put out an article with the headline, Chris Cooly has AIDS. And then just not cite a source or not say anything. I think the
like
title of this
payback.
episode should be Chris Cooly has AIDS. Yeah, it's
No,
payback.
don't give
and
out.
then if anyone asks for our source,
As legal
this is
counsel to
it.
the
We're reporting it
Hogsty,
now.
I strongly
Cooley has
recommend. As legal counsel to the Hogsty, I strongly recommend that it not be a title. That's only bad.
yeah, no, but I mean, no, I know, and I'm being silly about that. Really, what I do is that first thing. I'd probably just go ahead and stick McLuhan in front of reporters and let him do a 20-minute, 30-minute press conference where he says nothing anyway.
Yeah, but
that's
what
what I
about
would do.
though?
It's the fastest way out of this.
The problem with the presser though is, now that the story's out there, they're all going to ask him alcohol questions. And how is he going to answer that? That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a good question, but again, I got to go back to if you got nothing to hide from, you got nothing to hide from. If he's so shit-faced that he can't give the press conference, then that is a problem. Frankly, that's an issue. So I'd put him up there and just let him give the usual typical football non-answers. I know that would be all the questions, but just say no. Just say no.
Yeah, but then someone like Mike Jones, I won't use a real reporter, Kevin Tomlinson from the, Peking, from the Miami Herald shows up and says,
I'm pretty sure Kevin Tomlinson's a real guy too.
I just made that up. Some reporter stands up and then says, okay, Scott, thanks for talking about the draft, but there's been stories out, it was in the sports blog and Chris Cooly speculated about it on ESPN 980. Are you drinking too much? Then what, you've got that, and then he has to answer it. He can't just say, well, I'm going to draft a good football player to that. That's the problem with it.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And you're making a good point, because even addressing an issue gives it some kind of credence. So even just responding to a question like that is you might not want to get in that situation. I hear
think
that.
his answer may be like, no, that was fake news.
That wouldn't be
Yeah,
bad.
see?
I mean, they might as well do something like that. The one thing that I think we need to know as fans, and I hate to put this on the team has to come out at some point and say, listen, we are all on the same page. First off, they need to make sure they are. That Shanahan, Bruce Allen, or I'm sorry, not Shanahan, McLuhan, Bruce Allen, Dan Snyder, and Jay Gruden, all this weird rumor mill nonsense we're hearing, like, make sure that's just the Post or whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
The press. Someone in the press is doing it. Make sure you are all on the same page, and then you need to have a press conference where you're all there saying, listen, we want to address this head on. There's nothing to these stories. We're all good. We have a plan. We're going to stick to our plan. Scott might be drinking a few beers, but he's not, drinking liquor anymore or something. I don't know what you want to say.
Well,
but,
I think, and you say who, have Bruce Allen say that? I mean, maybe that's the answer.
I think you need to do it with them all in the room. I don't care who says it.
I think it would
They
have
all
to
just
be
need
Bruce
to
Allen
do the
to come
whole
out and,
four of them at a table
I think
thing.
it'd have to be Bruce Allen come out and say this story is stupid. There's no legs to it. But a big part of me also says, I as a fan here, and we're all fans, I don't know if I care how much he's drinking. He could be sloshed every single day of his life, and it's really not my business. What my business is, and our business on this show, is
I'm with you there.
is to evaluate the draft, evaluate free agency, and how he's putting a team together. In terms of how he lives his private life and how much he's drinking or not drinking, I just think it's nobody's business. And if it's a health issue for him, that's a personal thing with him and his family. And if it's interfering with his work, that's a Bruce Allen thing. I just don't think it's any of the fans' business.
Well, if it's interfering with his work, then I do care as a fan. But
Right,
if
right.
it's not interfering with his work, I don't care what people do in their own time.
know.
Yeah, hit the sauce.
It's their time.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, smoke a joint or blow a line. Get us some good draft picks. It's all good, bro.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I can't get behind that.
However,
That's
you
my
can
philosophy
add
anyway
more
in life.
picks in the draft, I don't care.
yeah. See, and then you're doing your job, coked up or not.
Right.
And also
it'll be. Go ahead.
My final thought on this is, all the speculation on Twitter and everything. People need to remember also that Scott McLuhan has a son, who's active in social media, follows a lot of Reds. He may follow us, actually. People need to remember this man has a family, and it's just not good business to speculate about it when you're a dad and a husband. And I just the whole thing gives me a really bad taste in my mouth. That's all.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
I think we all agree with that.
It's the Washington media bubble, though. Everyone gets decimated here. It's a pretty unforgiving job, I think, for people who come into this franchise. But no, I agree. I think that's a perfect kind of final word on that, Steve. I couldn't agree more. Be respectful to each other. That's all it is, man. Have respect in life. That's all it is. Respect. Scott McLuhan is a man.
Respect and love and respect.
Yeah, man. It all comes down to that. Kumbaya.
Love, respect, peace.
Well,
and
moving on
happiness.
from there. Moving on from there, because we've certainly, hopefully we didn't give this story any more legs than it already has. It's an interesting thing to comment about. Moving on from there, we had some media updates that we wanted to talk about. Alex, I think you had some notes on that stuff. We also have a user poll we can get into, but what happened in the world of the...
let me mention these two things that came up really quickly.
Please do.
We were talking about how 980 has had some turnover in their management stuff. They also have had some turnover in terms of the personnel they've let go. Polian and Lavario, I think that's how you...
I thought
is
it was
Lavario?
Lavario,
I never
but-
listened to his show.
Yeah.
Lavario, whatever. They were both let go from 980 recently and are both now moving to 106.7 The Fan as a weekend show, which...
Wow.
They're two of the most seasoned radio hosts, out there. So that's, a thing.
I mean...
That could definitely be a
and I'll
big
just say
thing.
this: ESPN Radio. If you have a vacancy now, we're open, we're available. Consider us.
We're
No,
right
they're
here.
just making Cooley talk more. That's It's basically they keep on firing old people and let Cooley talk.
We're
more.
right here.
We broke the Chris Cooley has AIDS story,
There
so
you
they should really pick us up.
There you go. That'll just do wonders for our
We had
career
that
in
scoop
broadcasting. Yeah, we had that scoop first.
Right. There's a lot, and if you're a bit of a radiophile like me, there's a lot that's been going on with both those sports stations lately. I mentioned before how 1067 was being sold because CBS is trying to get out of the radio game, and that happened, I believe.
Right, that's right.
So there's a lot going on that's very, if you're a nerd like me and love that kind of back end of media, it's interesting to pay attention to.
You're geeking out right now.
Yeah.
I'm literally drooling
else
on
is.
myself listening to all this nonsense.
Well, the other one you might appreciate, Steve, because it's got some nostalgia. That is that the ESPN 980 is not going to be the only people broadcasting the Redskins games anymore. They're going to be back on WMAL like they were in the 90s and in the 80s and the glory days.
That was the station that I used to listen to Redskins games on when I was a kid, was WMAL. And I remember when I moved back to the area in the mid-90s, I think it was right after... No, WMAL still had the games, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and 980 had everything, and Dan Snyder was like the titan of media. All of a sudden, I'm glad to hear WMAL is back in the game. For somebody like me, that brings back good memories.
Right. I like it because I've mentioned this a few times. When I lived in the middle of the city, like I lived within walking distance of the National Mall, you could not get 980 on the radio. It was absurd to me that the Redskins radio broadcast was not able to get, and I lived on the 8th floor of a building. I was
like the president
high up,
could not
and
listen
I
to the
get
Redskins
the goddamn
games.
game.
Jesus.
Yeah. So hopefully, being back on an FM station, there'll be a little stronger signal. It's still going to be on 980, by the way, as well as a bunch of other stations that they added to their broadcast network, but. WMAL is the big one. I'm with Steve. I remember listening there. I remember when they were on 106.7 for a little while.
Are we still going to be able to hear the sweet sounds of Sonny Jurgensen on the new?
I think
new
for
station?
one more year, yes.
Okay.
I think he's. I don't think they've announced that he's leaving.
Well,
yet.
that's
I think it's getting time. But
Sonny, we love you, but we also want you to enjoy your
retirement
days as well.
Right.
That's right.
Right. And take Larry with you wherever you go.
I don't hate Larry like all you guys. I don't hate Larry like everybody else does. I don't know. Call me crazy.
Yeah,
I know you don't.
Biggest fan. Yeah, he's okay.
To me, he's just too much of a piece of the propaganda.
Though? I mean, he's the head of the Redskins media. Of course he's going to be.
I expect
he's not be objective.
I expect some separation there. That's all. Frank Herzog was never like that. He was a homer, but he wasn't like that.
Enough. I like Frank too.
He was not part of the Redskins organization. So,
yeah, well, that's fair.
So yeah, those were the two media things I wanted to really quickly mention because I love the nostalgia too, like Steve.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. No. Awesome. A lot of movement recently in the Redskins platforms. So it's interesting. We have some other stuff on the docket, including a user poll this week, Steve. If I'm not mistaken.
It is the off season, so we are doing our user polls again. We had a question this week that went as follows. Defensive end Chris Baker is a free agent, and he turns 30 in October. What do you think the Redskins should do about Baker? And so the 4 choices here this week, because we always do 4 choices with this. First one is re-sign him no matter what. Second choice is just let him leave. Third choice is sign at market value, which I priced at about $7 million. And then the fourth choice is sign him, but only for some sort of minimum money. So, Sean and Alex, what do you think the public would have voted for with regard to the Chris Baker poll?
Well, see, I think it's a trick question because the ideal situation is you sign him for minimum money because you're signing him.
That's the ideal.
But I think realistically, the public probably is not, that crafty.
And that's not what I meant either.
Naive.
But, the idea was that the Redskins.
I know that's not what you meant, but
it's a
phrasing
Redskins,
thing.
The point with that was that the Redskins say, we'll sign you, but this is as far as we go. That was the point. Perhaps you could.
Right.
I'm limited by characters,
I think
people. Come on. The Twitter
line.
is not good for polls. I'm sorry. Sue me.
Yeah, I know. I think there is a line they have to draw, and I think that 7 million number is probably a good one. And that's where I think the public probably wound up.
So you think so? So Alex, you voted for the market value one then. But you think the market value one? Okay.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think that the public probably said sign him for minimum money. My second option for that is I think the public probably said let him leave. I'm not so sure everybody knows who Chris Baker is or has really weighed the pros and cons of letting him leave. I think people are probably going to – I'm not trying to dog our listeners or anything, but I'm going to say most people probably said sign him for the minimum because I don't think they have a great sense of his impact. That's what I'm going to go with.
Now, what do you guys think? If you were the GM, what would you do about him? Before I read the results.
Yeah, good question.
I think I've put this out there once or twice. Sign him for 3 years. I mean, he's 30, so you don't want a long-term deal at that age, from a GM's
Unless you're
standpoint. So maybe 3 years, market value, let's say that's $7 million, so 3 years, $21 million overall.
Okay. What would you do, Sean?
Yeah, and I think I might go for sign him for market value, which you had, I know, sort of said was, $7-8 million?
Roughly, yeah.
That's probably what I would do, frankly, if I were the GM right now.
All right, well, the public voted, and 54% of the voting public said to sign him at market value. So that was the number one choice, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a little surprised.
54%. That's a pretty big consensus.
20% said sign him, but only for min value. 15% said just let him leave. And a mere 11% said re-sign him no matter what. My personal thoughts on it, since you guys gave your thoughts, number one, I think the re-sign him no matter what crowd, you guys are nuts. He's not that good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I think I've called him a B+.
I would be.
Lineman.
I'm
that's what he
tempted
is.
to say. I'm tempted to vote for let him leave. Honestly, because look, the guy's gregarious. He's a personality. He's fun. He speaks well in the media.
Sure.
He's a good guy. But our defensive front three has just been atrocious. Just atrocious. And so a big part of it says, let's just start over. Chris, we love you. Thanks. Later. And then let's draft somebody, sign somebody. But I think at the end of the day, I'd probably go for the sign, but for some kind of minimum money. If we can get you for a minimum, some sort of small contract, we'll take you. But otherwise, later, dude. That's where I shake.
Yeah, I certainly see that argument. I don't think that's I'm close to that myself.
I mean, and really the age question to me also factors into that a lot. If he played like this and he was still in his mid to late 20s, I think it's a different story.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a guy. He was a journeyman, was he undrafted or 7th round pick or something like that?
And if you give me a second, I'll tell you before the end of the show. I got to pull it up.
But yeah. Nonetheless, we're not talking about J.J. Watt.
No,
we're not talking about
right.
a elite premier guy. He might have 1 or 2 good years left in him,
sure,
and he probably does. But like you said, we need to start over on this D line at some point.
Exactly.
Whether we do that with him or without him, that's a toss-up.
I mean, the long-term thing is, without, frankly.
Oh, yeah. If you're taking a long-term view, he's not part of this team's 5-year plan.
Right.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
In terms of comments, we had a couple comments. Not too many comments this week, but some guy named Disco, who I think you guys know, that is our writer, Rick, who we love. Rick.
Disco?
Yeah, Rick responded.
That's me.
Yeah, he totally ripped you off.
That was Sean's.
Oh, what an ass! Are you serious?
That was Sean's handle for a while. For those of you who don't know, is Disco.
I'm litigating.
Anyway, Rick's comment was, "I'm not."
He has a drinking problem.
Rick's comment was, "I'm not pressed to re-sign anyone off this historically bad defense. Baker's average, but if you put him next to a beast, he could be very good." And that's kind of where I shake out on it too. I kind of agree with Rick on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read Teresa.
Nice, thanks, Rick.
Teresa, who commented last week, commented again, and I got to read her comment because, again, we love when we have women comment because we need more female listeners. So I'm all for it.
Seriously, thanks, Teresa.
Yeah.
Tell your friends.
Yes.
You're awesome.
I don't want to go over the numbers, but let's just say it's very lopsided.
We like
towards one
guys,
gender.
but
let's just say, Teresa, you're it.
I don't know about that. Hopefully not.
She's more than it.
Okay. Anyway, Teresa's
You're a
comment,
significant portion.
Teresa's comment was, "Resign Baker. He's the heart of the Skins. He's a beast." So I think you throw Teresa in the 11% resign him no matter what crowd.
Teresa, you silly goose.
But hey, I mean, we'll give her credit because again, we like those comments from women, and
sure.
I think that was all that caught my eye this week.
Thanks, Teresa.
In terms of comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for everyone who
But those are-
participated.
Those are fair. Yeah, and we know we get way more of you guys voting. Start commenting.
Yeah,
we like
seriously.
to talk to people.
Sometimes
We
they
love
do,
the
and some-
comments, and we'll
we-
keep giving you shout-outs.
Sometimes we get a lot of comments. Sometimes we don't. We got good voting. Not too many comments this week.
Yeah, and that's usually what it is.
Yeah.
I look at our voting
Yeah.
numbers every once in a while. We get
Yeah.
good voting numbers.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
All right. Anyway, that's
Well,
the poll.
thank you as always to everyone. Yeah, thank you to everyone who voted or commented. Your participation is hugely appreciated. We really like interacting with you. So thank you. Continue to do that. Moving on from there, I understand we have a little bit of a Valor announcement, Alex.
Yeah, nothing big. But I want to, you guys know I'm a season ticket holder. I'm getting excited, and we are actually getting press releases from the team now on the Hog side.
We've
Thanks
moved
to
on to real legitimate
Steve, who I think
media.
has been reaching out.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
right.
But Steve,
We are.
you've done a lot of reaching out. I've done a lot of reaching out, and they're at least sending us press releases. So that's something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love you guys, Valor.
They've been sending out a release every time they sign a couple players. Just say, hey, look at who we signed. And I'm not going to go through all of them because, frankly, most of our listeners probably don't know or care. But I want to point out two big names that they
Robbie
have
Duncan.
signed. And, this is a first-year team. They finally have a quarterback, which is good. And the quarterback is Eric Meyer. He's the 2013 league MVP. He's an older guy, 34-year-old, so veteran quarterback.
Okay.
But not a bad way to start out a pass-happy football league than grab a former MVP.
No, that's
And
great.
the other guy I want to point out is Defensive Player of the Year from last year, Tracy Belton, also signed with the Washington Valor. So,
Very nice.
it's a new team, but they're building a lot of talent quickly to kind of have a good start off in DC. So I like the sound of that, especially since I put my money on the
I could
table
have
already.
sworn, Alex,
No, they-
you were going to say that Robbie Duncan was signed as their premier offensive lineman.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, I wish.
That'd be awesome.
But well, he's not.
Yeah,
with the
so
show
screw
yet,
him.
so I'm not
Forget
gonna
you, Robbie.
be
We
a-
don't like you
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, fuck you, Robbie. Piece of shit.
We have Adam.
asshole.
We have Adam now. Adam, by the way, Adam was of course not on the show this week because he had a personal situation. But Adam will be back
Yeah.
next week. And while I'm thinking about it, we promise we're going to
Hopefully.
get back to the draft previews. We skipped that this week, obviously, and talked
yes.
about forever about other things because of it, and that's okay. But we are going to do a draft preview series that kind of tracks with the articles Robbie's putting out on the hogsty.com. So there you go.
So there you go. Yeah, awesome for the Valor. Thank you for sending us announcements. That might be our fastest path to
Yeah.
a Washington, D.C. championship, right, guys?
There you go.
Well, we
That
got to
might
start
be our
somewhere.
best
If
option.
we start with a minor league football championship, I'll take it.
Because Lord
Yeah, I'll
knows
take it
that,
too, man.
it's
I
like,
wouldn't say no.
the Nationals and the Wizards are doing well, though. The Wizards have, doing.
Yeah, but they're not going to get past the
I hope
Cavaliers.
anybody.
See,
I hope
that's the thing,
Anybody
man.
gets past the Cavaliers. I don't care who it is. Somebody beat the Cavaliers, please.
Yeah, or but
I would.
and then there's the West. Is you
Yeah.
follow West.
Well,
more,
of course.
Steve. The West is a nightmare.
My
gauntlet.
Lakers are the team that everybody
So.
wants to face, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah, well, let's talk about our last item on the agenda, which is totally unrelated to football, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about for a couple minutes here. There's this Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor fight brewing.
yeah,
It is looming in the distance, and a lot of people have opinions and conversation and are talking about speculating about what that's going to look like and how that's going to go down. I'm a big MMA guy. I really like Conor McGregor, and I watch a lot of MMA fights. Not a huge boxing guy. Steve, you're more of a boxing guy, though, right?
yeah. I'm a big boxing fan. I can appreciate MMA. It doesn't catch my interest as much as boxing. I've watched Floyd for a long time. He's a crummy human being in many respects, but in the ring, he's genius. So I find.
Oh, he's pretty unstoppable.
Oh yeah. I mean, he is. The rumor this week, of course, was they were nearing a deal to get McGregor in the boxing ring. That was there was speculation about it, and I think the Nevada Boxing Commission was involved at one point in time. So I think it's real talk. So it may happen. It's a money thing, first and foremost, because you're not going to get Floyd in the ring for
Sure.
less than, something the size of Brinks, Fort Knox. It's what's going to
Yeah. Yeah,
We're talking more than 7 digits, probably.
Yeah, he
for him to
brings
do
in the
that.
dough.
Oh,
for
he's
sure.
looking
I
for
think
like
that's probably
he's looking
astute.
for 100 million. That's his opening.
At least.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
What do you
at
think? But
least.
Sean,
Now,
what do you think about the fight, though? Let's assume
Yeah.
it happens. What do you think?
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting debate, and I think people who like MMA and people who like boxing have this kind of debate all the time because it's like, what's better, what's more technically involved, et cetera. A lot of these sort of philosophical fight questions come up. So this is what I think. Conor McGregor, first of all, if you're not a big Conor McGregor fan, McGregor likes to strike with you. He does not like the part of MMA that is grappling and wrestling. This is the way most people try to beat him. In fact, when he does lose, it's generally because he gets, in some kind of submission hold or he gets wrestled to the floor. It's generally not a KO. I don't think he's ever been knocked out. He's the kind of guy who likes to stand the fight up and throw punches. So I think in terms of that, I think the fighting, it makes sense for Conor McGregor to try boxing. I think he's sort of at his heart, he's a striker. He's a puncher. So I think that makes sense. That said, damn, dude. I'm pretty nervous for him in a situation like this. I think he's got incredible power behind his strikes and his punches. He's a really good fighter. But Floyd Mayweather is on another level of technical ability. Yeah. He can dance around. He can avoid punches like no one else. And I don't know if Conor McGregor is going to have the endurance or the strength to throw all the punches that he throws and just not connect on any of them. That's probably what's going to happen. Though if he does connect, let me tell you something. It's going to hurt more than Manny Pacquiao hurt. I can tell you that much, Floyd. If Conor McGregor nails you, across the dome with a right cross or a hook or something, I mean that you're going to feel that, and I don't know if you're going to be dancing around as fast. So it's an interesting debate. But if Floyd can do his normal thing, dance around, twinkle toes, avoid punches, he's probably going to win the fight. They're both going to be standing at the end, and he'll win off points. That's kind of what I'm thinking, generally speaking, about it right now.
Yeah, I don't think this would be a competitive boxing match. I just right. People, if you're not a boxing fan, Floyd Mayweather is not just some other regular champion. He may be the best pure boxer in the history of the sport. And he's not a power guy. He's faced other guys with power. I don't doubt McGregor has some power. I don't know how McGregor would compare to somebody like Cotto, or Canelo, or some of these other guys that those are two guys that have a lot of power in that weight class that Mayweather beat.
Yeah.
Mayweather's Mayweather's 49-0. He's undefeated.
That's right.
If you got, not that Floyd would ever do this, but if you got Floyd in an MMA ring, McGregor would kill him. That wouldn't be a competitive fight either.
Right.
I think McGregor has
I agree.
basically no chance of beating Mayweather in a boxing match. I mean, I just don't think you step in to a boxing match never having done it over 12 rounds and you outpoint Floyd Mayweather. I just think it's almost his only chance is, the golden BB kind of thing. You may get one lucky punch in there, but it's Floyd's face. Yeah. Floyd has faced heavy punches before, and I'll watch it. Don't get me wrong. I'll be watching it, but I think it's not going to be a competitive fight.
Oh, everyone's going to watch that, man. I think because major fans of both sports are both going to tune in for that. Right. The one thing I can say is Conor McGregor has these ungodly long arms.
Does he?
He's sort of this gangly kind of Irishman. He doesn't have good boxing form in terms of he doesn't keep his hands up like Floyd Mayweather is a trained boxer he's going to do. McGregor's much more. He keeps his arms out to kind of distract his opponent from which way the punch is coming. He's really good at that kind of thing.
He's going to give up points like that is the problem for him.
Oh, I know, and that's exactly. That's kind of where I'm going with. He's going to lose by points thing. Is he just doesn't have the form and the technique. Really interesting fight though, and a really interesting matchup in terms of sports. I mean, that is going to be cool if it comes to fruition. That is.
The problem is they're both so different in terms of fight, MMA and boxing. There's no happy medium that you could ever really say, all right, why don't you just kickbox or something like that. I just don't see anyone agreeing
McGregor's
to doing something.
Let's be honest about why McGregor doesn't want to box necessarily. He wants the big payday. I don't blame him at all. I'd do it too. I mean, I would stand in with Floyd Mayweather for 12 rounds and let him beat me up if they're going to pay me, $25 million to do it. I'd do it.
Right.
I boxed a little bit in college. I think I would go in there and at least, hold my own for 30 seconds.
You'd be able to keep your hands up
for
around your face.
about 30 seconds, and then I'll be knocked out. But, there you go.
Right.
But see, that's the thing is Floyd Mayweather doesn't really knock people out. I mean, that's not really. And I'm not a boxing expert.
If I jumped in the ring with him, Sean, he would knock me out. Okay, let's just say that.
Oh well, he'd knock me out too, but so that's
make
not
sure of it.
We could both go.
He might not knock Conor McGregor out, but he
us
would knock us out. That's
simultaneously.
my point.
Yeah, no, totally. But see that's kind of what I'm saying is though that Floyd doesn't really knock people out. He doesn't really throw.
He's a
big
pure
punches.
boxer. He's a pure boxer.
He's a pure boxer.
Yeah, brilliant defense.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant he's brilliant on offense. He's going for points and to win rounds. That's what he did to Pacquiao.
Yeah.
He started winning a bunch of rounds. Right. I think it'll be.
And it was pretty. I thought that was pretty one-sided. I didn't think Pacquiao was ever in control of that fight.
Yeah,
he had,
I scored.
Maybe 1-2 good hits he got in
I
Floyd.
actually kept my own scorecard on that fight, and I had it at something like 7 rounds, 3, I think, something like that. I thought it was pretty one-sided.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Just super. I like the crossover. I do like the idea of the crossover of an MMA guy trying out a boxing. It's probably not. Conor McGregor's the right guy to pick. I think in terms of that. I think you and I are in agreement about what's going to happen.
That's for sure.
What'd you say?
He has the following, which is I think the big thing you need.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he is. I think he's the biggest star of that sport ever. Really, I don't think anyone prior in MMA has really come close to touching his level of fame and notoriety. So he's the right guy to pick. Stylistically too.
Not in a while.
Yeah, no, not in a while. I think he's stylistically the right guy to pick too because it just makes the most sense. It's not going to be an easy transition for him into this fight, but. If you got to pick an MMA fighter to go against Mayweather, McGregor's probably the right choice. He likes to punch. He doesn't like to wrestle. His instincts are going to, lead him into trying to take Mayweather to the mat. So, it'll be interesting.
And the final point to make about this is, if you have to be a boxing nerd like me to know this, but the best professional record in the history of boxing is Rocky Marciano at 49-0. Floyd is at 49-0, and so if this fight happened, everybody in the boxing world was stunned that Floyd retired at 49-0 because all he has to do is win one more fight against some tomato can, and he'd have 50-0, the best record in this.
He's the best boxer ever.
So if this fight happens, this fight puts Floyd into 50-0, and so it's got a whole bunch of historical boxing connotations too, in addition to just being an interesting fight. And so there you go.
Super interesting. And I forget, Steve, do they have they're still working out the logistics of this, right? Like there's no even ballpark time-wise that they're looking at?
I mean, it took the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight 4 years to get put together. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah, it was forever.
Yeah,
well...
that's my one problem with boxing is just how much goes into putting one major fight together.
It's all about money, man.
It's absurd.
Both fighters got to agree. Sometimes they got to get it right to the same
usually
class.
With the boxing
it's thing,
it's usually the problem with the boxing one is that one guy is a Showtime boxer, one guy is an HBO boxer, and they just can't agree. Period. I mean that was what was going on with the. In part with Mayweather Pacquiao was that with the UFC with the McGregor fight. The interesting thing is who pays the UFC? Somebody's gonna have to pay to drive a Brinks truck up to the UFC front door too. Dana White's not just gonna let Conor McGregor go get beat up by Floyd Mayweather and not get paid. Because McGregor's under contract with the UFC, so they've got that's a big.
I didn't even think about that angle.
That's why you have a lawyer.
Dana White's gonna make.
That's why you have a lawyer on this show to think about this kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'll tune into your contract and business show.
Yeah, we're doing that. That's coming up.
Yeah. We just need a name and some topics. And
we're working on it.
It takes time.
It's
These
in
things take time.
It's in production.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start wrapping up from there. That's actually a great segue into what I wanted to say, folks. If you notice we didn't have an All 32 this past week, it's because for the foreseeable future, potentially through the off season at large, we'll see. We're looking at a more every other day schedule for that for Jamal and I. So you heard Jamal on the last episode of the Hog Stye. We'll be back this week to do an All 32, and then obviously the Hog Stye will continue weekly. So I'll be back with you this weekend as well. We also have some other spin-offs planned, so I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Steve, but we have some other potential shows in the works and definitely some updates coming. So,
what I just mentioned.
For that.
Yeah, what I just mentioned. We're going to do the sports business and media show. That's coming up in the next few weeks, I'd say. So
so stay tuned for that. Lots of good stuff coming in the Hog Stye. Sweet. Well, we will wrap it there. Continue to engage with us online, thehogsty.com. Got lots of written content coming out, lots of new authors. Hopefully you're checking that out. And yeah, we got shows coming back weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, so you don't want to miss a single one. We will see you next time right here on The Hogsty. Take care.